Mute. You're unmuted. Okay. Good? Yep, good to go. Today is December 5th, 2023. This is the Hannah City Village Council meeting. If everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. No public guests this evening. Danny must have to work. So everybody should have a copy of our November 21st, 2023 meeting minutes. Take time to review those if you have not. At which time I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes as submitted.
Second.
A motion by Sidak, second by Pearson. Any further discussion, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Treasurer's report, Ms. Cassandra.
$4,900 in interest this month.
Woo-hoo.
Other than that, nothing exciting on the list. Unless you have any questions for me.
I'll make a motion to approve the treasurer's report and all the outstanding bills. Second.
Motion by Chair Raleigh, second by Sidak. Any further discussion? We'll roll call it. Weaver,
Yes.
Miller,
Yeah.
Pearson,
Yes.
Chair Raleigh,
Yes.
Sidak,
Yes.
motion carried. No, Brandon?
No, Brandon, the only thing I would say is apparently they do a review of your MFT programs. The government does every so often, and then they tell you whether or not there were any discrepancies or anything. And they encourage you to review that with your board. We got the letter just yesterday, that ours was fine up through 2022. No issues. I'll put it on the agenda for next time so you guys can see the letter and look at it. And we're still working. He's still working water tower loan process. That's really all that's going on there.
Okay. Treasurer's report, Abby?
I have a couple things. First is the Paid Leave for All Workers Act. There's actually an ordinance that you'll be voting on later about it, but I'm going to just kind of briefly explain it now, kind of what it is and what the ordinance does. So effective January 1st, 2024, Illinois passed a new law that requires all Illinois employees to have at least 40 hours of paid time off per year. So luckily for municipalities, they can pass ordinances to adopt their current PTO policies. So you don't have to change anything as long as the ordinance is adopted. But I guess kind of the consequences of not passing the ordinance. So technically all employees could use their 40 hours of paid time off at the same time for whatever reason. The paid time off in the new statute allows employees to take that time for any reason without documentation or certification or anything in support of that leave, and they could take it all at once. So it's kind of just avoiding that sort of situation of all employees taking, a full week off at the same time for, whatever reason they want.
But
so
that's if they have it accrued, correct?
Well, after 90 days, it starts accruing the date they start working. And after 90 days, they can use that. But yes, there is some sort of accruing process, but generally it's at least 40 hours of paid time off per year.
What the ordinance basically says what, though, in simplest terms?
The ordinance basically says, we acknowledge that this law is going to be effective January 1st. This is us adopting our current PTO plan that we have already in place. And so it doesn't like default to the statute, if that makes sense.
It does.
Any other questions about that?
I think I've got the actual ordinance under Eric's report, so we'll vote on it.
And then I do have an update on the carbon dioxide pipeline. I checked on it today. So, I updated you last time. They filed their motion to withdraw their application. The judge still hasn't ruled on that, but there was a response period, so any of the parties could file responses to their motion. The one response that was filed is from the ICC staff. So the people actually working for the ICC filed something, kind of stating their concerns, supporting the withdrawal, and giving the judge some factors to consider when moving forward, not only in their decision on the motion to withdraw, but also moving forward if an application were to be refiled, which it likely will be. So that's just kind of an update with that. Does anyone have any questions? I can go into as much detail as you want on that, but I don't want to waste your guys' time if nobody wants to hear about it. So
I guess the one question I would have is what was the ICC's posturing on a future possibility? Did they come across supportive or against, or?
Well, they definitely had concerns. So they had filed something a while ago stating that they didn't think the applicant, so Wolf Carbon Solutions, had met the requirements of the statute and asked the judge to dismiss the application based on that. So they restated that in their response, but they also set forth other concerns. For example, like this entire process is costing a lot of people a lot of money and a lot of resources, and the ICC doesn't like that. It's gonna continue to cost money for all of these people, especially individuals whose properties are being affected that have moved to intervene. So they definitely voiced their concern about costs for the administration, plus individuals, plus other entities. They also pointed out that the federal agency is working to update and strengthen the regulations based on safety concerns. So they strongly recommended that the applicant, so Wolf Carbon Solutions, wait to file a new application after the federal agency passes those regulations, because they don't want, safety to be an issue, modifications to be an issue, a shutdown. And I think one of the more significant things they pointed out was if the application was passed before those regulations, they could be grandfathered in to a non-conforming pipeline. So I think that's one of their really big concerns, but that's pretty much everything they pointed out. They mostly just pointed out concerns and errors, safety being the main thing. So it seemed to be more against the application itself.
One thing, they also got a letter from Wolf. Tony's got it there. Basically sits on the other side of things.
Yeah.
Basically, this says that they've withdrawn and they're going to reapply.
Yeah. And then their reply is due by December 11th. If they choose to reply to the ICC staff. Don't know if they will, but hopefully soon the judge will rule on that and then they can get that docket closed out. So if no one has any other questions, I'm done.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Yeah, Abby, this one just says, following the refiling of our certificate of application, ICC landowners notification letters will be again sent via certified mail to the proposed Mount Simon Hub notification corridor and easement negotiation conversation. That's weird. Before it can resume, landowner notification letters and its enclosed will be similar to the letters they received in August of 22. But it did also talk about the concerns that was raised by the ICC in here. So if anybody wants to take a look at that, they're more than welcome to. Thank you, Abby.
You're welcome.
Administrators report, Brian?
Yeah, just a few things that aren't on the agenda. If you remember, we ended up getting a contract with Hera Property Management rather than ProChamps to manage the vacant and foreclosed properties. We're already starting to get our money, right? We've already started to receive our checks from there, so that's good. They just got their government portal up so where we can go in and look at our stuff. We've gone in and looked at it. I don't think it's accurate at this point. There's Tracy and Cassandra are working together to determine which homes do we think are vacant and or potentially foreclosed upon. The foreclosures are probably pretty close because that's public knowledge that they can find, but the vacant ones we have to turn into them. So we're working to get all that cleaned up in the process. The website went down. I don't know if you guys noticed that or whatever, but our email on the website went down for a day and a half, 2 days almost. Tracy was pulling her hair out. It was a hosting issue that we were working through when we transferred from our current hosting to the new. But with Tracy did a great job of working through that and appropriately pressing on people to get it fixed. And Tony, I know you helped too, so we appreciate that. But it's up and running. I think both are functioning fine. I think we need to continue to expand how we use the app and the website. We've got a bunch of thoughts on how we're going to continue to improve that, but she's going to be doing that over time. I had a meeting tonight, actually, in advance of this meeting with the Hannah City Park District. They just wanted to update me on, they've done a really nice job of getting their financials together. They're increasing their revenue, done a lot of really good work on the building. I guess the fitness center is all redone. They've done a lot of things that aren't that visible as well, but they're in pretty good shape. And they want to talk about their tax levy and their appropriations ordinance and how all that works. And so we worked through that, and we talked about future projects and other things that they're going to do and maybe want some economic development money for. But I was impressed with the work that they've done. And then finally, we've been working to try to annex all these properties. We're still in conversations with the people in the process. It's kind of stalled. We've got one person that's not too excited about it, but I don't think he fully understands what kind of agreement we could put in place to ensure that they've got the things that they want, forever, I guess. And so we've kind of Fred's helping me because he's got a relationship with those folks, but because of the holidays and everything, we kind of put a pause button on it, and we're going to try to have a meeting with them after the first of the year. But I didn't want you guys wondering what was going on with that. So that's it.
Committee reports, Mr. Cherubali.
We just got one about the legal debt margin. We brought up the question of how much debt can we have as we're borrowing stuff, looking at the solar panels and all that. Is the number still about 1.6 our limit?
Yep.
And we currently have $0.
Zero debt.
Because we paid off that
IEPA loan.
400 or whatever. Yeah. So basically we're really rich and we have no debt.
Yeah, to do the solar farm would be borrowing about $500,000, but in a month that number drops down to what, 260, something like that. So that would account against that 1.6. But
then this added letter is even better news because they're not going to hold that against us at all.
The
right?
water tower
Is my understanding, because we're doing it to better our. So yeah, we got plenty of space, plenty of room to borrow money for solar panels.
correct. So there's an exception if we borrow money for an EPA issue, either water, sewer, EPA issue, that it doesn't count against the 1.6. So the question was brought up:
Federal Clean Water Act or a compliance order issued by the United States.
would we hit our borrowing limit if we did both the lagoon and the water tower? And it appears we will not, given the fact that we've got the exception for the EPA issue. But if anybody wants to know the formula, we can get you that. But basically, it's formula says we can borrow 1.6 total.
8.625% of the most recent assessed valuation of the property.
Yep, that's it.
Anything else?
Which is 1.629378.
Of which we borrowed zero at this point.
You all get new cars?
What would be a time frame? When we say we want to go through with something like that, we're looking. This is something you do in the spring. Something you do.
You're talking about what?
If we were to look
water
to
tower?
go, no, the solar panels.
We're going to talk about that.
Oh, you got that on there. Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Sherman?
That is all for me.
Nothing from Mr. Johnson, planning, zoning?
Nope.
Mr. Pearson, sanitary lagoon?
Yeah.
Sanitary sewer, excuse me.
I see you've got a little bit there in your pack with where the solar panels could go. And there's a bit of a cost breakdown that Brian can go over here. But basically, we need to decide if we want to put it out to bid and if we want to move forward with the legal costs and everything that would come with putting it to bid, moving forward with that. I asked how much it would be in legal costs, and it's like $500, so it's not a killer if we want to start moving forward on some of this stuff. But Brian, you want?
Yeah, we end up, if you remember right, the original drawing had 2 rows at the very south end of the lagoon. When we went out and looked at it, we kind of came to the conclusion it would be easier
It's the
to
north
do.
end.
Huh?
It's the north end of the lagoon.
Forgive me, the north end of the lagoon, that it would be easier to just do kind of an L shape and run along the property of that guy who's kind of a pain in everybody's neck, it was just a little bit easier layout design. The good news is, if you go over and look at the financials, he did the same layout. Remembering that cash flow with debt is a quarterly number, so that's how much we either make or lose that quarter. And then on the right, you can see we originally borrowed $521,000, somewhere in that range, but we get $249,117 back from the federal government in the first month. So our borrow against that 1.6 number we just talked about would be roughly $240,000 after a month. So not a ton. And then the cash flow on the other side shows the positive and negative quarters. But the good news is with the new layout and design, our cumulative cost dropped from $16,000 total out-of-pocket cost to $6,000. And once it's paid off, we're saving somewhere around $32,000 a year.
And the life expectancy on those is?
20 years with just basic maintenance, and then after 20 years, he said you probably got $20,000 worth of stuff that you need to put into it, and then it'll last another 10 years. And then obviously once you get in the last 10 years, I think he said your efficiency might drop down to about 80% or something like that. But
We already don't think we're even going to be using them to their full capacity, right?
well, what I did learn is, as we talked about last time, is we can carry over power day to day and month to month, but not year to year. So what we're trying to do is build the system so it's perfect to cover the energy cost of the lagoon itself.
Cool.
And so at the end of the year, if we have any extra, we don't get it back. It goes into the grid and we lose it. But we're designing it in such a way that it would save us the money of what we're spending in power, which is around, I think it's around $32,000 a year, if I remember correctly. So it gets basically, we're in the green after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 quarters.
Is that number just for the lagoon? The 32,000?
Correct.
That's just what the lagoon uses in power?
Correct. Now, if we want to put solar in other places, we can. If you remember right, back when we first started looking at this, the total amount we spend in energy a month was around $5,000 or something like that, but 70% of it is at the lagoon. So this covers 70% of our total energy cost. And so what I would do is, we're already putting $1,000 a month away now to cover capital. I would use that $1,000 and just divert it to paying the loan while we're negative for those quarters, and it would be enough to do that. And then once it's paid off and we're in the green, I guess what's 4 quarters is 2 years. So after 2 years, we're in the green. Now it's paying for itself. And we've got roughly $80,000 or $90,000 in capital right now in the lagoon. So if something does go wrong, we could draw from those reserves. And then we get to a point for the next, 20 plus years, the lagoon funds itself. So the two questions are, a project this size, we have to put it out for bid. So we'd have to put something in the paper, and I'd have to work on that. And there'd be a small cost with that of putting it in the paper. And then we take whatever bids we got and we can choose to work with whoever we want. And then once we got to that point, if let's say we choose Hawksworth or Hawkatola, which is this company, they put together a contract and everything, and then I'd have to have Abby review that to make sure we're comfortable with the terms and the contract. Once we did that, then I think we'd have to pass an ordinance to borrow the money. I'm assuming that's what we've done in the past. So what I'm looking for tonight is, do you want me to move forward with posting it out for bid? And then assuming that the bids come in and we got somebody that we like and that we want to work with, starting to head down the path of getting a contract and reviewing that to make sure it's where we need it to be. And then eventually we would have a meeting where we'd have to vote on, yes, we're going to do it and we're going to borrow the money to make it happen. So timeline, probably soon after the first of the year, I would hope that we'd be in a position to approve it.
And then probably spring before they start the project, once the ground falls.
I have not had that conversation with him, but yeah, that might be true.
So your projection is it'll be paid for in 4 years, and then
Well, we get in the green after 2 years.
It's not paid for yet, but we're making more.
okay.
So it is, but it
We're
doesn't
cash
count.
flow positive in 2 years. And we've got $1,000 a month we're putting away for capital now. And we've got the reserves to cover anything that's out there. So I would just divert that $1,000 to pay the loan until it's cash flow positive, and then
So for 2 years, for the first 2 years, we're paying.
correct.
Then for the next 4 years, we are 100% sustainable. And then after that, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Almost 2 years then at the end. And the reason then it's that way is because then all those government grants and subsidies are no longer effective.
Well, the amount of money we're saving is specifically based off what it costs right now, too.
Yeah.
You haven't even projected Silco 20 years from now.
I mean, a $6,000 total out of pocket for $32,000 return for 20 years is financially. We probably won't look at something as
No.
good as that.
No.
I say, dude.
Look at Denise's desk over there. See if we can find what the Silco bill was in 2003.
You won't find it on Denise's desk.
In that drawer, I found a couple things from
did
'96,
you?
but I don't know about '03.
Maybe 1973, but
All I'm asking for tonight is the permission to put it out for bid, and then permission to explore what the contract would look like, and then come back to you guys with a proposal of, the financials would be this, and a proposal of what the contract would look like, and then you guys could approve the project or not. So,
Was the consensus, yeah, go with it?
The only reason I see a slight rush is because you don't know how long this is going to last. The forgiveness
we
side of
definitely want it done before the election because
Yes.
we want the subsidies. Yeah.
because it could forget this is federal and state, and we need both for these numbers to make sense, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that'd be my fear.
So with that, Brian, go ahead and pursue and
Yes, sir.
get with them, and we'll
Thank you.
get it drawn up. Find out what we got going on. So, next, Mr. Pearson.
Speaking of the lagoon, we had that blower motor. That's costing a little bit more than we originally thought. We had approved for $3,328. It's going to be $4,425. I don't think you have that on here for us to vote on. No, so it would be at the next meeting.
Yeah.
We would vote on that. It'll probably be fixed before then,
Potentially.
hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully we will.
But basically, just want to give a heads up to everybody that that's going on.
and what is it?
It's the lagoon blower motor.
So we approved at the last meeting 3,400.
Yeah.
I asked
We
that
approved at
last.
the last
Is
meeting
that the one that makes the bubbles?
roughly $3,500 to do it, and
Yeah.
the parts came in higher than expected, so it's another 1,097, I think.
Yeah,
So,
almost 11.
and I didn't find that out early enough to put it on the agenda for this time, so I got to put it on for the agenda for next time.
Just parts? Are we doing the work or something?
No, the parts just came in higher.
Who's doing the work?
The arcade, the
Arcade.
electrical,
Arcade.
electric.
We also had the Lakeshore Drive lift station had a sewer stoppage, another clog of wipes. So there's probably going to be some repair costs there as well. We're waiting to see how much that's the transducer.
No, that's a different.
Oh, okay.
Well, it could be related.
Yeah.
We had the sewer got clogged, and so it was going to back up into houses and stuff, but the sewers weren't working. So we had to hire a company to come out and unclog the system, and he's got a picture of. And one of the things we should talk about is,
Yeah,
do
I
we
think
want
we
to
should send
communicate
out a communication. We've done before.
Why don't we send a picture?
He's got a picture of the tube and it's just there's a big thing of wipes coming.
So
like a
somebody
wet
can
wipes.
see.
Yeah, it's the flushable
Flushable wipes?
quote flushable wipes
That aren't flushable.
that aren't flushable. So we think we need to put out another communication that says,
Can we do it both in the mail and on the app?
I think so. I mean, I think we just say
Flushing the wipes.
these things are what cause sewer rates to go up, and
Yeah.
so don't do it.
The mail, the app, and Facebook.
How do we know when something like that happens?
It stops.
Some
That's what
usually either the lift station's having problems or somebody's home's having an issue, and they call.
And then they trace it to that.
Well, I can only trace it so far. I don't think they're tracing it. Can they trace it to a home?
They can't.
Yeah.
Unless we
It's
We can put you
impossible.
down there and pit.
I don't mean that. I mean they trace it to wherever the
How
problem.
about a
where the clog
camera?
is. There's no alarms or anything, so it's like how do they even know?
We have other options. I mean, we can put in grinder pumps, but Cassandra says that they have them at
No.
Germantown, and the cost and maintenance of those things is the electricity and the maintenance of them is pretty high.
I don't know how it would work here, but in Germantown, the EPA has mandated that the city owns those grinder pumps and has to do all the maintenance and repair on them forever.
But basically, we know because Jim does a loop of those things like at least twice a day
Sure.
to make sure everything's working.
Sounds good. All right.
I believe that's it for sanitary sewer.
Water.
Water. We have built in January an automatic rate increase of 2.7% for the water rates. We built that in last time. It looks like the IAW isn't going to raise their rates, probably because they did so much last time. So we need to decide if we still want that 2.7 to kick in. We're already making some, right?
We are. So we have a choice. We don't do anything, don't vote on anything. The 2.7 will kick in January and off we go. Or if you don't want to add another 2.7 off of last year's 40% increase, then we can vote to not have the 2.7% increase in January. But we need to do it at the next meeting. So I need to know. I can put it on the meeting either way, and you guys can think about it.
The 2.7 was the number you always did previous to our 40, right?
So what happened is the way we got to 2.7. Honestly, Tracy yells at me. She just made it 3 because it makes life easier. But what we did is we went 8 years without increasing our rates, and then we did a catch up that we did like 24% or whatever. Anyway, we looked at what the average increase was over as long as we had the records, and it was 2.7% a year on average. So then we passed an ordinance that said in January of every year we're going to increase water rates 2.7% unless the board takes action and says they're not going to do that. So we do
Then
nothing.
We had that 40% increase.
Well-
We took a different action.
But normally your 2.7 every year should wash out any increases they do until they do something insane like that.
Correct.
So I guess it's up to us would be,
I don't think
they're
there's
going to raise
be,
it eventually. So we're going to either have to raise it more or.
Well, I don't think we're going to. The 2.7 was to maintain.
Right.
Yeah.
But if we don't do that,
Correct.
they can double it next year.
We don't
I think
continue
he
to
just
main.
said they weren't raising it, right?
We haven't gotten anything
Oh,
that
we
says
haven't
that they are.
This year.
But to his point, they might not hit 2.7 next year. They might.
It might be 5. And now we got to do 5 next year instead of a gradual increase. So it's all optics, but.
Correct. And
especially if
that's
somebody's
again, I don't have strong feelings either way. You know, on one hand, you know, 2.7% on a 40% this year is.
Does that come out to like $9-10?
I don't know.
I remember we did that
Bill?
math. Yeah.
Yeah, we have done it in the past.
That's what it comes down to. What kind of number are we looking at?
Well, and the other thing you got to
Percentage
keep
means
in mind
nothing
is,
with
and I don't know that we'll have to do this, but if we borrow the money for the water tower, we may be coming back and asking for additional money to pay for the water tower. So do you want to do 2.7 and then circle back if we do get the money in mid-year and do more on water to pay for the water tower? Again, I'm not suggesting we'll have to have that money to pay for the water tower, but we may need an increase to help cover that.
I just think gradual raises my personal. I like gradually raising it more than.
That's why we did it
Shocking
that way,
them.
is because we just said we'll keep up, but we didn't expect. We thought we'd catch up with the whatever 24% we did, and then we'd just be doing the 2.7, and we would just gradually, and we'd stay the course, and life would be good. And then last year they hit us with the 40%.
So Illinois American Water just every year ups a percentage.
Historically,
no matter
they've
what.
averaged 2.7. This year, I'll be.
I could do that with my wage.
Yeah, I don't.
It does happen with their employees.
Well, they said
It's not ours.
that was due to infrastructure.
Yeah, where do you draw a line in the sand?
It was all stuff they were putting into Peoria
Just keep up.
that we were paying for. I don't deny they weren't working in Peoria. They didn't do anything for us.
Why don't I do this? I'll put it on for a vote at the next meeting. And then you guys can think about it, and then we can have a discussion and decide at the next meeting whether you want to let the 2.7 ride or you want to cancel it. That make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Is that all for water?
That is all for water.
Buildings and grounds, Mr. Weaver.
There's a repair bill for the salt spreader.
It's the second to last.
Kevin Rappin Welding for $1,220.97. Make a motion to go ahead and pay that,
Yeah.
Second.
So motion
That broken when they were out. So again,
motion by Weaver, second by Chervali. Any further discussion? We know what we're doing here. It's for $1,220.93. And we'll roll call that. Miller,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Chervali,
Yes.
Sidak,
Yes.
and Weaver.
yes.
Motion carries. Is that it under buildings and grounds?
That's it.
Anything under no? CEDC, Mr. Sidak?
Coming up on the 15th, we're going to put out a local announcement about the redevelopment program, just saying that we're doing it again. And then Brian let me know that after the 1st, we're going to be sending out a little communique, some postcards to people who are eligible to let them know that they're eligible.
So if anybody asks you, am I eligible or not, a business, or say if you got a postcard, you're eligible. If you didn't, you're not. Or they can look on the map and see if they're in the BDD district. Those would be the two things. But we'll be off and running.
That's all I got.
Okay. Administration, Mr. Miller.
From November 26th through December 2nd, 6 calls, motor vehicle stop, chest pain, a lockout, a medical alarm, quality life check, and a fire. And then we need to vote on the paid leave ordinance, which everybody has a paper on it in front of them.
Yeah, this is what Abby was talking about in her thing. Basically, it's just the we need to say that we're not going to default to the state's rule. We're going to continue to use our own PTO program the way we've got it designed.
I'll make a motion that we adopt an ordinance regarding the Illinois paid leave for All Workers Act for the Village of Hannah City. I don't know why the title is really weird.
Second. Motion by Sidak, second by Weaver. This will be ordinance 23-12-01. Any further discussion? We'll roll call it. Pearson?
Yes.
Chirvalli?
Yes.
Sidak?
Yes.
Weaver?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Abby, we don't need to do anything but file that for ourselves here.
That's correct.
So Denise, if you take the signed version, if you could just send an electronic copy to Cassandra and actually give the original to Cassandra
File the original.
or whatever, and send a
I'll
copy
take care of
to Abby. Thank you.
Other business, board staff open house get together December 13th between 6 and 8 p.m. at the Sportsman's Club. I will not be able to make it. I also have a Mayor's Association meeting that night, but I will try to stop up if I have time afterwards. Anybody else have anything else to come before the board?
It'll be in the back room, and it's just going to be appetizers, and your drinks will be on. Yeah, everybody's invited. I sent a note out to everybody on the board. So, Abby, you're welcome to join us if you want.
Free food?
Just going to be casual. It is ugly sweater night at the Sportsman's Club that night, so we want to wear an ugly sweater and participate in that.
All sweaters I have.
I was gonna say, wear your normal outfit.
But staff's looking forward to hanging out with you.
So, next board meeting will be December 19th at 6 p.m. It's your birthday?
The 19th.
Oh, yeah, you're in charge of treats. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, Abby.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Explain the meeting. Give me a little bit more.